Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and I'm back with another empowering conversation with my old friend John Bush of Live Free Academy. How you doing, John?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a while since we did a video together, first of all, but it's been a few months since we were in person. We were actually we were at the Next Steps conference in Atlanta, but before that we were here in Morelia, Mexico for the Greater Reset 5, and you gave an awesome talk and we had a good time, and so we're now, it's springtime, and I know you're working on another event. That's what we're going to focus on today, guys. As always, we're going to talk about solutions. John is, as many of you know, the person who really largely inspired me to focus on solutions over the years. He's got the Exit and Build Land Summit coming up next month in just a couple of weeks in Bastrop, Texas, Central Texas. We're going to get into all that and more, but since we haven't talked in a while, John, I figured maybe we could just take some time and get into some relevant issues, some things that I know are important to both of us, and I think the audience will be, interested to hear our takes on. So if we could, let's start with crypto. I'll preface this by saying my audience, much like yours, is somewhat savvy of crypto, some super deep in it, like you and myself, been using it for years. Others are very anti-crypto, anti-blockchain, even though they've never touched a wallet, never, really maybe understood it. So we got a mix of opinions in here, but I really want to see if we can try to parse out some nuance in this whole discussion, this whole debate, as I think we've tried to over the years. And first, by acknowledging something that I know you feel as I do, that yes, the Bitcoin space, there's a crypto space for those who don't know, all sorts of projects, thousands of projects, most of them will not last or be around. And there's a crypto YouTube, crypto Twitter. There's a whole space discussing this, and you have people who are more on the anarchist end of things, who don't want regulation, and they think this is all about freedom, and others who think it's about number go up, get rich, government regulation, and things like that. That division has existed since I started going to the Texas Bitcoin conference in 2012, but it's only gotten worse. And from my take, and I would say based on recent works like the book Hijacking Bitcoin by Roger Ver, really point to the fact that the Bitcoin space is not what it once was. And again, for those of you who never were into it, you probably thought, I told you guys, so it's all controlled opposition. I don't necessarily buy that, but without a doubt, the space has changed, and there are some shady elements involved and have been involved in recent years. So things have changed a lot. So yeah, I know I just said a lot there, but what are your thoughts on where things are now, Roger's book, and maybe a little bit on the future?
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Derek. And this is something definitely that I've been really passionate about more recently, right? Like you said, we've been in Bitcoin and crypto for quite some time, but more recently, there's been a lot of changes. And, to be totally authentic and transparent with our audience, unfortunately, Bitcoin isn't what we had hoped it would be or become. And so let me break that down. I think to position the conversation, it's great to talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general in terms of two use cases. One of them being a store of value. You work your butt off, you earn some money, you put it in a store of value like gold or Bitcoin or land. And then you can preserve that value rather than putting it in some dollar-backed asset or in your savings account, which is being inflated and losing value, right? So you have store of value as one use case, and then you have medium of exchange, the ability to send and receive money amongst ourselves, right? Money, commerce, currency. And so Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever the heck that was, I highly doubt it was the New World Order, the NSA, they originally wanted to create a store value and a medium of exchange, but the prominence, the main purpose was this is in the white paper, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So back when we were promoting Bitcoin in the early days, 2013, 2014, what I would tell people, the elevator pitch is like, yeah, there's this really cool digital currency. It's completely decentralized, and it allows you to send money to anyone, any amount, anywhere in the world with little to no fee. But unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. And Ver's book, of course, talks about the capturing. He says hijacking. I like the term capture. Same difference, though. Bitcoin in 2015, 2017 was captured, hijacked by a small group of developers funded by a company, Blockstream. This company has some sketchy investors. Maybe I'll let you share more details about that, Derek. But the point is, because Bitcoin was prevented from scaling on the blockchain where we could send and receive money that gets cleared and settled on the blockchain, the fees are now exorbitant. And they promised this Lightning Network, this layer 2 solution. So instead of doing business with each other, if I sent Derrick Bitcoin, Derrick was actually my first Bitcoin transaction ever. And I would send it to him. And then within 10 minutes, it would be confirmed on the blockchain, peer to peer, using the miners and the nodes that are involved in the system. Well, when they captured Bitcoin, they're like, no, we can't increase the size of the blocks, because then it'll become centralized, because it'll take these massive computers and server factories in order to run Bitcoin. This is all hocus pocus hogwash. Instead, we'll do these layer 2 solutions. So people do business and transactions on this outside of the Bitcoin blockchain layer 2. And basically you take your Bitcoin, you convert it into Lightning Network Bitcoin, which is kind of like a Bitcoin token. You do your business there, and then every once in a while it settles. There's so many problems with this. And my initial instinct was to be skeptical, because these nodes that now route these transactions all amongst one another, I don't want to get into the technical details, but they're an attack vector for regulation, because they could potentially be seen as a money service business. Those are the institutions and the entities that are required to do the know your customer check. And that's exactly what we see happening today. Unfortunately, Samurai Wallet was recently shut down. That was a Bitcoin wallet for on-chain transactions that allowed you to do coin mixing, where you can jumble up your transaction with other people's. So it's hidden, it obscures it, because Bitcoin's not private. It's a transparent blockchain. That got shut down. And then just today, Phoenix Wallet, which is one of the most popular Lightning Network wallets, they closed their doors. Previously, Wallet of Satoshi closed their doors in the United States. Same with Phoenix. Exodus Wallet, which is what I recommend and teach to people. I know you're a fan of that wallet as well. They had a Lightning Network custodial service. They recently backed out in the United States. And so the writing is on the wall. Bitcoin was captured, and the Lightning Network is going to be highly custodial, where you have to trust third parties, which isn't what Bitcoin was intended to be. Not only that, it's going to be regulated more and more in the future. I do want to share, though, I'm still a fan of Bitcoin. I hold Bitcoin, but it's not as revolutionary as it once was. It's shaping up to be a digital gold, a store of value. It's not what it was intended to be. We can be upset about it. It's still cool and still has, some potential to shake up the system. But what's more radical and revolutionary are cryptocurrencies like Monero, which is a peer-to-peer electronic cash. Not only that, unlike Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, for example, it's completely private. I'm a fan of Bitcoin Cash too, which is holding true to Satoshi's original vision, but it's okay if someone holds Bitcoin and they store value in Bitcoin and number go up, but let's not forget the revolutionary roots, because we all know the CBDCs are coming down the pike. And because of that, I'm a big fan of Monero, especially. And I know that you've been using Monero a whole lot in your own personal life too, Derrick.
Yeah, so I'll just add to that a little bit. I mean, I agree with pretty much everything you said there, and I hold Bitcoin. I have some Bitcoin Cash. I do believe it's a superior vision, and it's closer to the vision than the actual Bitcoin, and of course Monero, and always open to other privacy projects. But definitely, as you said, John, I mean, these are all the signs that we need for anybody who is in the crypto space, that we need to go further to privacy if you're not using these tools already. You mentioned Samurai. I hadn't heard about Phoenix, and a couple of months ago it was the Tornado Cash, which they were doing similar things, kind of swaps and stuff. So they're clearly going after our ability to not only transact cryptocurrency, but to be able to easily move it from one to the other, to mix it, to tumble it, as you were saying. All of these things provide anonymity, and in the eyes of the US government and probably other governments, are really money laundering to them. But for those of us who use it for privacy purposes, they're very convenient, and it's something that I do recommend, and we've been recommending for years to use while we have it. The only thing I would add to that, and I think you said this as well, but just to reiterate, that none of us have proof that this was the plan from the beginning. It could be, this may have been, maybe the New World Order, quote unquote, whatever you want to call them, saw the original vision. Maybe it wasn't the NSA that created. Yes, we know the NSA algorithm, but that's not the entire blockchain. But maybe they saw this, they thought, let's let it flourish, let's let it grow, get a bunch of people in there, and then with time, like they do with everything, we'll co-opt it, we'll bring it closer to our vision, something we can control. But I would say, at least for my money, and time will tell, that this doesn't mean Bitcoin is the CBDC that they're trying to get everybody on, right? Like, this is just, it's a co-opting of this ecosystem. I definitely do think that all the big banks and stuff, they're going to be putting their money in it. And the other thing that is unfortunate about cryptocurrency, just like we can have anonymity and hide our money or do our best to, you better believe the banks and governments have their money, some of their money in crypto, and they use it to launder money and move money around. They're the actual criminals who are doing that, not those of us who just want to be free from government privacy, government invasions of our privacy. So yeah, we'll see how that space continues to go. Anything else you want to add to that? I had one other question before we get to exit and build, but anything you want to add to that, John?
Yeah, just one takeaway for this. If you're new to Bitcoin, or like you're sharing earlier, Derek, if you're skeptical, like, see, I told you so, I would encourage people to let that go. There's still a lot of utility in Bitcoin. Even if it becomes like a reserve asset, like gold was for central banks, or still is for central banks, this still could be a positive thing. And this guy, Saifedean Amos, lays this out in the Bitcoin Standard. That piece of literature is one primary reason why everyone's all up in arms about it. It's a store of value, and we shouldn't have big blocks because it should be a settlement layer. And you don't want to use a lot of, you don't want to do a lot of transactions. You want to hold on for dear life, so the number will go up. But it would actually be a beneficial thing if banks held Bitcoin and if they allowed their reserves to be auditable, which can happen via the blockchain. That's very challenging to happen with gold. And now, of course, we can't trust the banks to do the right thing or hinder their ability to create money out of thin air. But if there is a Bitcoin standard globally, and governments and banks are competing, and it's a better currency if it has a Bitcoin standard, like a gold standard, that could be a positive thing. But let's be real. We can't trust the banks. It's up to each and every one of us to do what we can to continue the flow of commerce amongst ourselves. And the last thing I'll say is let's also never lose sight of the importance of connecting with people in your local area. Cryptocurrency is great, and it's easy, and it enables us to send money online to one another. Like Derek's in Mexico or Houston, I can send him money. We can do business outside of the government's control. But let's never, ever, ever lose sight of the importance of finding a tight-knit community of local people that you don't have to even use money. You get each other's back. You can barter. You could trade. Maybe you start your own little currency, silver dimes, or whatever that may look like. That's really where the magic's at as far as securing our sovereignty.
Absolutely. We got to keep building the counter economy. All right, well, let's go to one more topic before we get to the Exit and Build Land Summit. I hope everybody listening will stay all the way through, because if you want to hear solutions, which is what matters more than anything at this point, especially if you're interested in getting land, learning from people who have already done so, homesteaders, permaculturists, having some music, and I'm sure some comedy.
33.
And hear more about the Exit and Build Land Summit. But let's go to this next topic, John. This one, I think, we'll probably have some interesting insights here. This is a topic where you and I have not necessarily always seen eye to eye, which is, of course, fine. This is what free people do. They have opinions, and they're not always the same. Relating to Mr. Elon Musk, but I noticed in our recent conversations that you seem to kind of, at least on this topic, think that Elon has gone too far in this direction. And we're talking about Israel. I'm showing on screen right now, for those who are watching, a tweet. This is a tweet from the account Censored Men. I don't know anything about it, but I just came across this, and it says, Elon Musk is straight up retweeting Netanyahu's propaganda now. That advertiser boycott really did a number on him. Well, let me explain something to you. These are not anti-Semitic protests. They are anti-Israel protests. They're talking about the ongoing college campus protests right now. And then they did add at the end, if you're more angry about a couple of college campuses being disrupted than you are about tax dollars being used to fund a genocide, I got to say, you got your priorities wrong. And the picture they show is from Elon Musk's account, where he literally retweeted from Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, the head of Israel, where he's saying the anti-Semitism on campuses in the U.S. is reminiscent of German universities in the 1930s. So yeah, I just wanted to see, because like I said, I know this is not, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on our thoughts on Elon in other areas, but I think you've been pretty strong and principled, and I guess, for all of us, there are certain lines, and when it comes to what I would consider genocide, even if it doesn't fit the dictionary definition, but let's just say murdering of children. We just saw reports of mass graves found last week, 300, including children with their hands tied behind their back, like some pretty bad situations here. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And just, we don't have to get into the broader picture, but Elon Musk, specifically Israel, and maybe your thoughts, you've been at this a long time, on why so many politicians and influential people, celebrities, etc., are unwilling to question Israel.
This is ambush journalism, Derek. It's a good conversation for sure. And yeah, so to be clear, I'm a fan of Elon Musk. and I'm a fan of his products. We have Tesla automobiles. We have Starlink. It's the only way to get internet out in the country. And we have a Tesla Powerwall for our solar system. So as an entrepreneur, that's probably one of the biggest parts of my identity: entrepreneur, activist, father, husband, right? But I focus most of my attention on entrepreneurship. Not that I don't focus on my family, but I'm in the trenches all day with my business. And so what originally attracted me to Elon Musk and caused me to, to look up to the guy was his entrepreneurial spirit. And I know we could debate the nuance, contracts and government money and all this stuff, right? But to see what he's built in multiple different companies inspires me. The work ethic, the push, the first principles thinking, the innovation, doing things that were thought to be impossible. So I've promoted some Elon stuff and shared about inspiration from him. But, as the case is with a lot of folks, with Trump, for example, it was never like he's the savior and Elon's going to be this white hat figure that comes in and fixes everything for us so we don't have to do this or that. I used Elon's story and what he's accomplished to draw inspiration and motivation for me. And I've caught flack from Derrick and from other folks and so on and so forth, right? Which is cool. And it's not like offensive to me, because that's the challenge. Like when people tie their identity up with this other figure, then you're basically at the whims of whatever this person does, whether it's ethical or not. So he has his flaws, not a fan of Neuralink, this, that, and the other. But what really pulled me back from him, and I was willing to look past a lot of that stuff, the Department of Defense contracts, obviously I don't condone it. He's not a libertarian. He's not an anarchist. But it was my view that he is playing nice with the government. It's a means to justify the ends of his ultimate mission, which is to make humans a multiplanetary species. And just that alone is like this big thing that's like, wow, what a huge, ambitious goal. And not only is it some far-fetched idea, but the guy's like actually running the ball down the field to maybe accomplish that within our lifetimes. Like, wow, that's incredible. So that's, in my view, why he's doing this Department of Defense stuff, yada, yada, yada. He's got to play nice. They're signing off on deals for him to shoot stuff into space. Maybe not. Maybe it's all a ploy. I don't know. But whenever he started getting cozy with Netanyahu, that's when I was like, oh, come on, this damn it, this sucks. Because here's a guy that I look up to, that things fit, right? The story fits. Maybe he's doing this satellite launching for the Department of Defense because he needs the United States government to give him approval so he can put humans on Mars. And then the Israel thing. So if folks aren't aware, he was really pushing back on the ADL because they were coming after him for Twitter, X, right? It's not pure free speech like we would prefer, but it sure is a lot better than Facebook, Instagram. And there's been a lot of damn good conversations that have sprung up. It's not perfect by any means. So he was getting pushed back, and he started firing back against the ADL, specifically mostly the ADL. He said this tweet, or he commented on somebody's tweet that was somewhat genuinely anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic, and he retweeted or comment, and then he caught all hell. And then he went to go visit Netanyahu. And it's my belief around that time period, he was captured by Israel, like almost all of our politicians are. The same thing about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I was excited about his campaign. I'm not going to go vote for the guy, but I was like, this is actually pretty cool that he's running, and he seems like he's actually making a big splash. This could really help to change the conversation about what just took place with all these lockdowns. And he's a good guy on environmentalism, and not purely on environmentalism, but he actually goes against polluters and he sues them, and that's all positive stuff. And then when it came to his foreign policy, he's an anti-war guy, non-interventionist, except for Israel. So, he apparently was on Lolita Express. He said that he had his family with him, maybe went other times. So maybe that was a capture point. Of course, the work that Whitney Webb does, and Derrick, some of the work you've exposed way before it was cool to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, is that he was a Mossad asset that would get incriminating evidence against people. When it comes to Elon, it may be the case, as many people know, I don't know if this will get pulled from YouTube, but Israelis and Jewish folks tend to have a lot of influence in finance, in Hollywood as well. But in finance, maybe they're like, listen, Elon, if you don't toe the party line and come out strong in support of us, we're going to kill your companies. Like literally, Tesla is publicly traded. I mean, and as you can see, Tesla is tanking now. Maybe it's for other reasons. The stock price is going down. But that was a big eye opener for me, because being in the conspiracy space for 22 years now, since 2002, there's always been folks that have come around and been like, it's the Jews. They're the ones that are behind it all, right? And I was always like, no, there's all these different factions. it's the New World Order, and then there's like Yakuza, and there's Chinese communists that are playing in the deep state, blah, blah, blah. The Anglo-American establishment, I believe, to be the most powerful. But seeing what's going on right now with such blatant, and yeah, let's use the G word, genocide, it's so atrocious. It's really motivated me to like pull back more support for the US government through taxation, figure out anything I could do to opt out of this nonsense and not contribute to it. But to see what's happened with Elon, who I saw as a maverick, even though he does this and that, and to see what's happening across the board with this major atrocity, like this is historically unprecedented. It's happened before, but to happen now in modern times with everybody just watching it, and then everybody just towing the party line, leads me to believe that Israel has more influence over world affairs, politicians, than I previously thought. I knew that they had massive influence, but to this level, it's mind-boggling. So, and it's frustrating for me because we're solutions guys, right? Exit and build. What can we do? And that's what we ask people when they're sharing news. But I think basically the only thing that we could do is to withdraw our consent as much as possible without hurting ourselves. But maybe we should put some more skin in the game. And ultimately, exit and build is the way. Because if we build an alternative system that isn't funding our own oppression and funding literal genocide overseas, then hopefully we can show humanity there's another way to live that doesn't have to involve such unethical stuff. So that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that, John. And yeah, no, that wasn't intended to be any sort of gotcha. I genuinely want to hear your thoughts on that. And I think that we have also, for one thing, there's so many people in our community, and I'm sure even those hearing this, that don't know how to celebrate when something positive happens. And I get it. I totally understand. Like, so even with this, the fact that the world is waking up to how much power Israel has, and of course, not the conservative evangelicals or some of the right wingers.
They're cheering on the police state right now.
And I mean, it's crazy to watch happen. So not everybody, right? But a lot of people beyond just the usual left-wing progressives are like, okay, this is pretty messed up. Things are going bad. And yet you still have people who are looking for the conspiracy in it all. And like, why are they showing us this? This must be, a 3D, like fourth layer chess, something, but at the same time, I think, look, sometimes things are just as messed up as they are, and people can see it for what it is. And like you said, it's hard to sort of be alive right now and know that I can go on Instagram and anywhere else and just see videos of bombings and dead kids and messed up stuff that is happening. I do feel some sense of solace. Like the only sense of solace I would say is knowing that I'm not funding it. That's like one thing. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there at the end, and it's a perfect segue that the answer is to exit and build. That is what I've been promoting since 2019, and John's been promoting that for years. We've been promoting that for years under the labels counter economics and agorism. But with my 2019 book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, I came up with the idea of exit and build. John has since taken that on and is now in the 4th year of hosting the Exit and Build Land Summit. So let's go ahead and talk about that, John. I mean, for those who heard before, they know, I guess, somewhat it's a weekend event. You got speakers focused on land, homesteading, permaculture, et cetera. But what do you think sets this year's apart, different from the past 3 that you've done? Is it the lineup of speakers, the music, or what are you really excited about for this year's event?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, anybody can come and watch online for free the first day and a half, or you can get a virtual pass to watch the whole thing, get replays and a bunch of bonuses. Or ideally, you join me and Derrick and Miriam and Rebecca and a bunch of other awesome people here in Bastrop, Texas. So, we actually haven't revealed the theme, but I'll go ahead and reveal it now, exclusive for your audience, because we're going to do like a big announcement or whatever. But I think what's really probably the cool new thing about this is like every year, Rebecca and I evolve in our activism and our thinking. And there was something that really hit home for me at the Greater Reset 5. I was introduced to this concept from Yoshi and Pola, who are speaking, who we met through the Greater Reset 5 and through Derrick's work. And Vanessa and Danny also talked about it. They're speaking as well. They spoke about it at the Greater Reset, but it's this concept of the eagle and condor prophecy. And that's going to be a big theme at our event this year. And it's this idea of creating harmony between the West and the Eastern ways, between North America, which is more fast, masculine, capitalism, building, construction, right? This masculine energy, and more Southern American indigenous cultures, which is connecting to the land, more of a harmonious flow, more of a feminine energy, right? And I also see it too as like when it comes to spirituality, more the Abrahamic religions of Christianity and Islam, right? And Judaism, that's more of a masculine, the father figure, right? And then there could be a harmony between the indigenous ways, which is rooted and connected with the land and the seasons, right? And the spirituality of self. And so what we're aiming to do with this event is we've brought together a collection of speakers, and a lot of the themes of the talks are going to be, how can we accelerate this eagle condor prophecy, which holds that during this 500-year epoch that started in 1993, it's up to us. It's not inevitable that we find a harmony between these civilizations and cultures before they clash too much and completely destroy the planet and destroy one another. So that's a big part of the theme. That's something that I've really been focusing on heavily too in my own life. We got some amazing speakers. Joel Salatin will be back. He's going to be doing a custom speech on that specific topic and how they have practices that unite the eagle and the condor at Polyface Farms. We just announced JP Sears. He's going to be speaking. So he's a huge, huge name and just like so hilarious, but also really powerful motivator and like really gets it. Derrick speaking, of course. Jack Spirko will be back. We'll actually have David Holmgren. He's like a living permaculture legend. He, along with Bill Mollison, kind of put forward permaculture. I don't like to say they found it or discovered it because it's just a way of being that was already there, but he's going to do a virtual talk for us. And here's another thing I'll reveal here on your show. And we haven't announced this yet, so people get a little inside look. We are going to have a virtual stream from some of the Charan elders. We wanted to get them here in person, but we had to do visa stuff, and it ended up being a little bit too much work, too late in the game. But we want to hear from them because, of course, they have an indigenous culture, the Purepecha, that goes back hundreds, thousands of years, and they've kept their community together, and they've recently achieved autonomy. Not recently, I guess it was like 15 years ago, but there's so much to learn from them, the wisdom that they have that we can use to apply to try to create our own political autonomy here in the West, in Mexico, wherever. So it's going to be great. People can come in person. We visit farms on day 1 and day 5. The actual conference is the 17th, 18th, and 19th. But if you come for the whole 5-day thing, you'll have a fully immersive experience. The farms that you visit on day 1 and day 5, you'll actually eat food from those farms during the meal, which is pretty cool. So we're really excited. And every year it gets bigger and better. And we really are conscious about creating an event and an experience for people that just completely blows them away. So I hope folks in your audience will be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, everybody. There will be a link in the show notes where you can get your tickets. And as John said, there is an option for a virtual immersion pass if you can't make it to Texas. Although I would recommend coming in person. This is one of the few times a year where Texas isn't miserably hot, and it's actually not too bad. It's springtime weather, especially over there in Central Texas. I'll mention a couple people I'm excited about. I'm excited to connect with Matt Powers in person. I've followed his work for a few years, and you know, in terms of practical information, for those of you who understand the value, the need for good soil, regenerating our soil, cleaning up our soil so we can grow good, healthy food, because whatever your diet, carnivore, omnivore, vegan, we're all nutrient deficient because our soil is nutrient deficient. So whether you're eating cows that are eating grass, unless you've done the soil remediation work to get those good elements back into your soil, more than likely you're lacking nutrients, as most of us are. So this is a super key piece as we're talking about exit and building and creating new systems, new world. Jack Spirko, of course. I saw you're going to have this local food producer panel. I think that's always cool whenever we do things like that, because people need to get more connected and realize that you do have producers, whether you're living in the countryside or in the city. Most cities, most small towns now have a farmer's market of some kind, have local markets. If there's not one, you can start one. You can really create it and get it going, because we were talking earlier just about the importance of the peer-to-peer, local, in-your-face economy. And that includes growing food. The food's part of the economy, not just trading money, but actually being able to trade and exchange goods as well as skills. David Holmgren, as you said, one of the pioneers of permaculture in its modern form. Super excited to hear what he has to share. And so many other people, of course, Yoshi and Paula, Hakeem's going to be there. Miriam, my partner, she's going to be leading a guided meditation. I see Mike Adams is going to be there. We're going to hear about seasteading. And there's just plenty of good things to sink your teeth in, whatever angle you're coming from. I also think Melanie Rubin is really awesome. She was somebody who spoke at the Greater Reset She was a student of mine in my first journalism course, and it's great to see her just embracing her work and kind of growing and rising up. And that's what we want for everybody. And then, of course, David Rodriguez, I heard, is going to be emceeing all of it. So that'll be great. He's a really powerful person. He was at the Greater Reset 5 as well. So May 17th to the 19th are the main days. The 16th and the 20th are the farm tours. Again, the links will be listed below in the show notes. I highly, highly encourage you to be there. I'll be hanging out in Texas for 5 days. If you want to come hang out with me, John, Becca, Miriam, Hakeem, meet JP Sears, all these amazing people, and more importantly, get solutions that you could take home with you and implement in your life. That's what the Greater Reset, the People's Reset, Exit Build, the Freedom Cell Network, that's what all of our work is about, is trying to empower you guys. And John and his team have done a great job here putting this event together. Highly recommend it. Come in person, hang out with us. You got a few weeks left to do that. Anything else they should know, John?
Something that always comes up that, myself, and I know you too, Derrick, we've been resistant to this whole in the private thing, which is like using lawful institutions in order to achieve sovereignty. I've really been thinking about that more, and it's starting to resonate with me more. Not the whole deep end, like your status and send this letter to the Department of Treasury kind of deal, but I just came to realize it's just the whole Israel-Gaza things just really got me so fed up. It's so disgusting. Like there's been disgusting wars in my lifetime, but this is like so egregious. And I believe it's a great bridge between, the regular world and then our agorism world, which is like, let's just trade amongst ourselves and do our own thing outside their reach. But then there's still this middle thing where it's like, yeah, but it still would be worthwhile to be able to accept payment and credit card and to have a bank account and to have some system of establishing ownership or transference of this, that, or the other. And so we're exploring this concept, and this guy Bradley is going to be speaking, and he's going to be doing a workshop, and this is his whole world. He's a divine law guy, and we're consulting with him to create a trust private membership association with a 508c1a designation, which is like a faith-based organization. And the cool thing is, like, the work that we're already doing in the world is, basically like a church, like helping support people. And it's not necessarily like a religion, but we are helping to reestablish connection with the land and with one another, and to achieve our highest purpose on this planet and recognize the divinity within each and every one of us. And I think that's really a powerful thing. So we have there's all these folks that are coming to these same realizations. In the private, you can actually have an entity that is private and doesn't have to ask permission and doesn't have to file this, that, or the other. And I think it opens up the door to establish institutions that can live beyond our lifetimes, and our children and grandchildren can inherit these institutions and continue our good work, preserving assets and all sorts of stuff. And we're not owners of this stuff like the land. We're just stewards that are stewarding it for its highest purpose and highest use. So that's something that we've been exploring with this property development project we're working on. And the guy that we're learning from will be at the Land Summit doing a workshop on this whole world for folks that are interested. I don't know if your perspective's changed on any of that stuff, or what you think, Derrick.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, John. I mean, for folks who've been following the channel, we just had Anthony, one of our other contributors, release an interview with a gentleman, Daniel Metz, about PMAs. And, I remain open to hearing more about it. I look forward to hearing and learning from the guy from Bradley at your event, to hear how he's organizing his things, because, as you know, we've got our land, and even though we're in Mexico and there are somewhat different structures, some of it is similar and applicable. So I look forward to learning. And the reality is, if there is a solution, even if it's something that maybe in the beginning I'm skeptical to, if there's a real solution out there, I want to promote it as, I want to shout it from the rooftops. Like, I want to share it with as many people as possible. So I look forward to learning at the Exit and Build Land Summit and seeing if it's something that I find value in and that I want to promote. Either way, I encourage everybody who's listening to go to the website, to come in person, come to Texas, spend some time with us, get to learn about self-sufficient communities, homesteading, permaculture. There's going to be, of course, as John said, the sort of spiritual aspect as well. That's some of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about living the Exit and Build lifestyle from a holistic perspective, what that looks like, not just growing our food, not just the money side, but what does it look like to apply that to your whole life. So really excited about this. And thanks again, John, for inviting me and Miriam. We will be there very soon. Yeah, so everybody, thank you for tuning in today. All the links for Exit and Build will be there. John, thanks for entertaining my questions about Elon and Israel and crypto and everything else. I appreciate it. Any final closing words?
Now, just want to encourage everyone to believe in yourselves, and when you got that little that voice of doubt that springs up in our heads almost all the time, just quiet that voice. Step into your power. We all are capable of such greatness, but oftentimes we deceive ourselves into thinking that we're not, and that we don't have it figured out, or we're not worthy. You are worthy. It's up to each and every one of us to accept that, so we can continue the work that we're doing here, because, as you like to say, the future generations are counting on us.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to leave it there. Until next time, remember, you are powerful.